The Virginia discourse is back, Joe.
We have entered the Virginia Tony Bennett chat room.
They've they lost to Furman yesterday on a very uncharacteristic Kihei Clark mistake.
Yeah, but they just kind of melted down.
But they were going to win the game. They were going to win the game.
As I'm saying, they kind of just melted down. I don't want to pin it all on Kihei throwing the ball away
in a just
weird
like, dude, what are you doing?
Sequence.
Yeah, totally weird. Here's Tony Bennett, head coach Virginia, on the ending that resulted in yet another early flameout for the Cavaliers.
The pass at the end, we missed a front end of a bonus. We missed, made 1 out of 2, so there were some free throws that could have salted that away. And, I'll have to see on tape how it all played out. But, again, it's that feeling of it's there. I think we're going on to the second round or the whatever round we call it now, and then it's gone. And that's a gut punch.
So that's Tony Bennett on the loss to Furman yesterday. And as we joked about, the Tony Bennett discourse has re-entered the chat. You had like Pat 40 immediately had the column ready to go on SI, calling it a fluke. You tweet out that Tony Bennett's just not built for March, which was one of the hottest takes I saw on Twitter yesterday, Joe. Congrats to you.
Thank you.
And then suddenly the Virginia people are like, that's not true. They won a championship, everything else. Which, I mean, you can't say Tony Bennett's not built for March when he does have a national championship under his belt. Like, you see where those two things don't really line up, Joe?
Every year, he consistently loses probably before he should. The year that they won it, they were extremely fortunate. Extremely.
Okay, cool,
Everyone
cool.
who wins it is fortunate.
You can qualify it all you want, but let's hone in on the key part there. What did they do in 2019?
They won the national title.
Was that tournament in another month? Did it happen in March?
It happened in March.
Okay, so clearly he is in some way, shape, or form built for March. He won a national championship.
So in 14, they start winning games.
Yeah.
Basically, they went 16-2 first year.
Yeah.
They won the ACC in 14. They get to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
15, they lose in the second round. 16, they had an epic collapse against Syracuse.
Sure.
16, 17, lose in the second round. 18, they're the only team in the history of the tournament to lose to a 16 seed as a 1 seed. The only team in the history of the tournament.
Shout out to UMBC, which is
how about we do this? How about we do this?
Yeah.
Let's throw out his worst result. Let's not even talk about the 16-1.
That's fine.
Okay, now let's throw out his best result. Let's not talk about the championship. Let's just do that.
Okay.
What is he? What is he now?
He's a good regular season coach.
What is he now?
He's a good regular season coach with some unfortunate early exits.
Okay.
But there's a lot more factors.
I think Tony Bennett is an outstanding builder of a program. When he took that job in 2010, Virginia was completely in the abyss of the ACC. They were at the bottom of the ACC. They now regularly win the ACC. Tony Bennett should be commended for that. But as sometimes you like to tell me, two things can be true at the same time.
Sure.
We're watching this with the Carolina Hurricanes, who I often compare to the New York Yankees.
Or the Atlanta Braves.
Sometimes you're just really good over the course of a season because of the way that you play and the way that you're built and your mindset and your mentality. Sometimes you're really good at that. But once you get into when the money is on the table, I don't want Tony Bennett as my coach when the money's on the table. You can have him. You can win the 1 time out of 10. That's awesome. And I think it's great that Virginia did win the national championship because, quite frankly, the basketball gods owed them from the Ralph Sampson era.
Oh, not the 16.
I'm not even talking about
You're
16.
talking Ralph Sampson.
I'm talking they consistently had the best team in the ACC with Ralph Sampson, and they never got a payout for it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm okay with all of those things. But don't sit here and tell me that Tony Bennett is some sort of mastermind in March.
Well, I don't think
you can spawn that off into Izzo, who we love, right? Who's only done it once.
About that.
Okay.
I'm always fascinated by which single titles for coaches validate their careers and which single titles end up being flukes, right? I mean, there's one single title we seem to celebrate every year with some sort of anniversary that can be considered a fluke.
For sure.
1983.
For sure.
Okay. There were a couple first-round exits for Jim Valvano. Actually, not a couple. There were, I think, 3 or 4 first-round exits for NC State at that time. And this also includes the expansion of the NCAA tournament in 1985. So here's some things to consider. And I'm glad we did the exercise of let's take out his best performance and worst performance. I'm glad we did that exercise, so let's get back into the reality of, well, he still has a national championship, and you cannot take that away from him. There have been 80 NCAA tournaments. There are 16 coaches with multiple NCAA titles. Let's go ahead and throw out John Wooden for reasons. Okay, he's got, 10? Throw that out because we know it was different back then and he cheated. So let's go to Coach K. He's got 5. I think we can all agree that Coach K is the greatest of all time. He's won 5 national championships in 5 completely different ways over 4 decades. So I think we kind of understand where Coach K is on this. So let's narrow it down to coaches with 2 titles. There's only 2 active coaches right now in the NCAA with 2 national championships. And one guy literally just won it last year in Bill Self at Kansas. Rick Pitino is in college coaching purgatory right now. He might reemerge at St. John's when it's all said and done. So we'll go from there. Let's consider Dean Smith only won 2 with 11 appearances in the Final Four. What was the biggest knock on Dean Smith for the longest time until he won one in 1993? Well, you only won 1. Oh, so that invalidates everything that he's done at that point? Tom Izzo has been to 8 Final Fours. He's only won 1. It was 23 years ago, yet we still give Tom Izzo this benefit of the doubt as though he's Mr. March or something like that. Jim Boeheim, who just retired, 47 freaking years. Final Four 5 times. Title once. Yet, what do we consider Jim Boeheim, right? Is it the longevity? I don't know, but he's got 1, and we just don't even bring up the bad stuff, so to say. Anyway, the point that I'm making here is that coaches we consider legends have at some point had really spotty records on their NCAA tournament resume, and some were fortunate to win a title. And the consistency for the guys who won the title, they had dudes. So if you wanted to have one valid criticism of Tony Bennett, is what's different from 2019 from the other years? And I'm going to throw out 2021, by the way, because of COVID.
You had 3 NBA players.
He had 3 NBA players! And even then, it was a little bit of a small margin for error, which is a valid criticism of their very methodical way they go about offense. But they trusted what they were doing because they had dudes who could literally make shots. They had a guy, named Guy, who could make shots. So as I jokingly tweeted last night when this all happened, I'm like, you know what Tony Bennett needs again? He needs more guys, literally guys, because that's what helped him win a title. So Furman's 13 over Virginia's 4 is not a fluke, by the way. We've had 2 13s beat 4s in 2021. That included Ohio's win over Virginia. But again, I'll put an asterisk on that one because Virginia was depleted because of COVID coming out of the ACC tournament. From 2008 through 2009, it's happened 11 times, a 13 over a 4. Princeton, by the way, over Arizona, there were 4 15 over 2 upsets for the first 27 years of the expanded tournament. There have been 7 in the last 10 tournaments. So, in a way, what I'm getting at is that there are more of these types of upsets over the last couple of years for a variety of reasons, and we're only going to start seeing more of them down the line. Now, specific to Virginia, to your point, in the last 5 years, Virginia lost to UMBC. We all know that. They won the national championship. They lost to Ohio. Again, I throw that one out because of the pandemic. A DNP in 2022, and obviously yesterday against Furman. Every single person who's dunking on Virginia today, every single person outside of Duke and Carolina, Kentucky and Kansas, the Blue Bloods out there, every single fan base in the ACC outside of Carolina and Duke, do they take that?
Yeah, but this is where the Virginia portion is now. It's not 2010 anymore. Mm-hmm. So you're not at the bottom of the ACC anymore. You're not just happy that you win the league anymore. You're not just happy that you have one title. You're now Virginia, and you're saying, we've eaten a crap sandwich from the triangle, from Tobacco Road, the entire time we've been in this league. Mm-hmm. And now it's our turn to run this league. Well, if it's your turn to run the league and you finally have the best coach, I am sorry, Joe. Let's use my SAT example. We're taking out his best. We're taking out his worst. Sure. His record is 7-7 in the NCAA tournament.
It's not great. This is where
that's not Dean Smith. Dean Smith went to the Sweet 16 30 years in a row.
Yeah. This is where you and
Jim Valvano, by the way, did lose 3 times in the first round. He was a 7-10 game, and he was an 11 seed in one of the other losses. He did lose in 88 as a 3 seed, though. So there is that. But let's kind of, sort of, you can't attack the guys with a vowel now, my friend.
I don't know.
Because Jim Valvano, the reason we still talk about all that Jim Valvano is arguably the greatest X and O coach of all time.
But
X and O. Nobody wanted to see that guy. Nobody improvised like that guy.
But
he is the
won.
complete opposite.
It won, though.
He is the complete opposite of Tony Bennett.
I don't know. It looks like a fluke by definition.
Complete
It
opposite.
just looks like a fluke by definition if we want to play that game. Now, to get the extreme points out of the way, and we'll wrap it up on this. This is where you and I actually start to align at the end.
Tony Bennett didn't beat
You
Dean Smith.
Here's
Tony
where
Bennett didn't.
Yeah, but
Tony Bennett didn't beat Houston, who had arguably the greatest team.
But they've beaten Duke in the regular season with Mike Krzyzewski. They've beaten Roy Williams.
Not that year, they lost. Remember, Zion Williamson blocked DeAndre Hunter,
Well,
and they didn't see Duke in that tournament because bracket luck is real.
Now,
when I say fluky, it's all part of it, man.
Here's where you and I ultimately align when it comes to Virginia. Do you want to be about that life or not? Okay? And this is something that I've been arguing with and why I get mad when I see Tony Bennett still getting Coach of the Year votes, right? Stop treating Virginia as though they're this, like, wow, how are they doing this? Well, because they have the coach, they have a fan base, and they have every other opportunity to do so. They should be running with the big boys, okay? Everything's in place for them now. And winning a national championship in 2019 should be proof positive that you can come here, play in this system, and get to the NBA. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And
don't forget he coached Klay Thompson at Washington State.
And you can feast on recruits that are hovering in the 50s. Okay? You can feast on that, especially in this day and age of college basketball. So this is where you and I do ultimately agree, in that if you want to be about that life, stop treating yourself as though you're this, like, it's a miracle that we even did this and that. How can we no, you want to run with Duke and Carolina. Well, then do it. Do it then. And stop trying to treat yourself. You can't have it both ways. Ultimately, that's my thing with Virginia fans specifically.